Hello, and welcome to episode 34 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is the show where I talk to the funniest and nicest people I know. They're the friends of the show. This week's friend is Isabel Zatun at Isabel Zatun, and this was the very first live and in-person episode. Recorded at my very own humble abode. It was so nice speaking with Isabel face-to-face. She shares great tales about growing up in rural northern Canada, and we get real deep answering questions submitted by listeners just like you. So huge thank you to everyone who sent some. Now strike a pose. It's Friends of the Show, episode 34, with the Pigeon Fancier.
No me dejen morir así, digan que dije algo. Translation: do not let me die like this. Tell them I said something. Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa. What a good guy. So thank you for providing us with that quote this week, and welcome to the podcast, Isabel.
Thank you for having me.
Woo! So for the listeners, Isabel Zatun, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, no, but I can't say it correctly either.
Well, how would you say it?
It's Zatun. It's a tonal language that I was not taught.
Oh, so I'm putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable?
My dad sometimes tries to explain it to us, and he's like, it's Zatun. It's not Zatun.
Oh,
and he uses his hands to illustrate, which is completely unhelpful. And I'm just like, Daddy, you didn't teach us how to speak Burmese.
So there's probably like an accent on the U, right? Like
Burmese
stress.
Has more tones than Cantonese. It's a very hard language to learn.
So it's a Burmese name.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Zatun.
It's fine.
I'll never get it.
I've had a lot of weird variations throughout my life. A lot of people like to say Zatoon, like a cartoon, which like makes me sound adorable, but it's very incorrect. I mean, like here I am lecturing people on pronunciation, and I just like had the worst Spanish
No, I thought that was good. I liked it. And I like when people bring other languages too. We had a Latin quote one time, and that was really fun, too. So
yeah, that was Phil Stamato. Wow.
Phil Stamato, wow. Yeah, that's a good callback. And so I like to see the other languages, too, because I speak a little French and some Spanish, so it's great to hear the other languages represented. Pancho Villa.
It's a good quote. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great quote. So we should mention, this is the very first live Friends of the Show podcast, so welcome to the studio.
Yeah, you guys, spoiler alert, Stephen has a beautiful home.
No,
like I'm sitting beside there's a gorgeous Christmas tree. Shout out to Stephen's wife for taking the guard dog to her parents.
Yes, shout out. And it was Griffin who couldn't be here. He hates podcasts, so we had to get him out. But thank you very much for coming over. It's great. So I had to set up, got my whole studio set up here, and we're doing it. I hope it sounds okay.
I'm sure it sounds great.
So let's let the listeners catch up, and myself. So some bit of your life story. This is like the WTF part, but we condense it to just the beginning.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Okay. So I'm born in Alberta in the mountains in the south. Then lived most of my childhood in the far north. By far north, I mean like in the summertime the sun never set. Yeah. And then we moved south to Toronto. Well, there's so many other details in there. We moved around a lot. Now I'm in Toronto.
Okay. So we're in the far north. How long were you up there?
We moved down when I was 10, and then for a long time I was determined that when I was 20 I was going to leave Ontario because I was like, I can't live more than half my life here. Right. But I'm still here. Yay. I don't know if I could ever go back. For university, I went to university not in Toronto, and it was in, I don't know how many of your listeners know Canadian geography, but it was in a town called Kingston, which isn't even a really small town. I think it's still technically considered a city.
Yeah, pretty big, yeah.
And I realized how like cityfied I'd become when the first week of Frosh, we went to go see a movie at 9 p.m. and the theater was closed, and I just threw a fit, and I was like, what the hell hick town am I in for 4 years? And I was just like, no, I can't go smaller. Also, when we moved to the city, I didn't see myself as like a city person. I was like, oh, I miss the small town. But if you're not not white, it's a lot easier living in a city.
Right. More diversity.
Unless you're like living in a small
your...
town in another country.
I guess so, yeah, but that's true. Unfortunately, sort of the small town mentality is more towards just like the white people, rural white people, right? Like that's all the people in the general outskirts of the GTA.
Yeah. I mean, the town I grew up in was primarily Native people. Also, it's just nice being able to get good groceries.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like being able to buy mangoes.
Mangoes are key. Yeah, they're very good. So, yeah, out there, it's guess they don't get as much selection with
and
groceries.
It also costs more because the cost to
ship it all out there. Yeah, you're not...
Also, the bugs.
Oh, that's awful, too. Especially, summertime mosquitoes that we're talking about.
Black flies and mosquitoes, and every time you have to go outside, you have to put on bug spray, and relatives would visit us and be completely baffled. And every time we went down south, it's also very funny, probably hearing a Canadian being like, when we went down south to Edmonton.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we went to the big city, I, as a child, was like, whoa, there are no bugs. This is like heaven. It's like I'm in heaven. You can go to sleep without a mosquito buzzing in your ear. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That's probably the worst thing about the mosquitoes. Just that one that gets into your room at night. And that you spend hours trying to find it or whatever. You can't sleep because once you close your eyes, it'll buzz right into your ear. Just the worst sound that you can hear on like a hot summer night.
What I do love, though, is that every time a white dude around my age, in like, let's say his 20s, finds out that I'm from up north, he immediately chimes in with like a black fly story of the time that he went portaging. His name is like Justin or something, and he's like, oh, I went to the Yukon and I did canoeing, and like I know about black flies. It's like, okay, sit down.
You don't know vacation black flies. What is that? You gotta live.
And then some guy from across the room yells like, "Oh, I'll take chunks out of you!" Like they all get so excited telling their story about the one time they experienced bugs. Black
fly talk. Everyone has their story. Yeah, I don't know. A couple summers ago, back at my cousin's cottage, we got bit up pretty bad. I don't know. But it's true. That's true. That did happen. Did I have one of those, like the hat with the mesh?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You're just really committing to being the.
I'm fine with it.
Like the fun uncle who makes puns and.
I am completely fine with that role. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that you do very cool artwork and awesome drawings. We should mention that up top. How did you get into that?
I'm not sure.
Just started.
I went to art school and I did illustration, and I'll occasionally do some kids' books. I used to do like zines and some spot illustrations for magazines, but I got to feed my family, and it's a really hard thing to monetize. But I still keep it around as a hobby, and I'll do, I do tweet drawings. And I have a book that I'm finishing up now. Ideally, it will be done by Christmas. This all depends on just me, and if I stop being
if I stop taking up all your time and doing podcasts.
No. Okay, so what happens is I did I'm illustrating a bunch of Kafka's short stories as a kid's book, because when my kids were little, I would read them Kafka stories, and they loved them, and I think Kafka's perfect for children. Also, I should point out, when my kids were little, I was like this university student that was like, I'm going to raise my children intellectually. So I did the illustrations for them on my own, and I realized, I can just turn this into a book, and it would be fun. And I have all the illustrations done, and I have all the story basically transcribed and all set up to go. I just have to scan 3 more pictures. That's literally all I've had to do. And for the past 4 months, that's been all I've had to do, and I just haven't done it because, I don't know, something about me, it's like I get 80% done, and then I'm like, I did such a good job. I did so great. Oh my gosh, I don't even need to finish that. And then I just start telling people, I'm like, I did this thing. And they're like, can I see it? And I'm like, it's not done. So
okay, I get it.
Here's hoping that I just give myself a kick in the pants and get that finished by Christmas.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And we'll definitely put a link in the show notes.
If I get, more motivation for me to get it done.
Exactly. So listeners, look for that coming soon. Coming this Christmas.
Hopefully.
Kafka
Fingers
stories.
Crossed.
Kafka stories. That sounds really cool. That's really neat.
Yeah. If you're my Twitter friend and you have a kid and you want a copy, just hit me up.
Hit her up at Isabel Zatun, Zawtun, Isabel
Yeah,
Zawtun.
That's the one. You got it.
And so you've drawn a bunch of cool, hilarious tweets, and I love it. You have a great style with color. Like, is that watercolor?
It's watercolor and marker.
Watercolor and marker, the combination gets those good, like, colors.
Yeah.
What was I trying to say?
Markers
Good
for all
texture.
your color needs.
It's like a
Stevenson advertising.
Interesting texture. I like to look at those. And let's talk about Bad Boy Bacon. Because have you seen this Bad Boy Bacon account?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's based on your tweet?
It's not based on my tweet. It's based on a tweet by Marky Doodoo at Marky Doodoo. Is that his at?
Yeah.
Mark, I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. We're dear friends.
Shout out to Marky Doodoo.
He enjoyed the drawing a lot, particularly a section of it where a strip of bacon is smoking, and then he made a whole different account for it. And occasionally he will message me via that account as Bad Boy Bacon, being like, come pick up me and my band in 20 minutes and bring weed. And that's been a fun thing for us. Mark is one of my favorite Twitter people. And also, my mother pointed out to me that the structure of fat in bacon is the exact same as the structure of fat in avocado.
Oh.
Yeah, so if y'all want to eat healthy, you can eat bacon. It's the same as eating avocado.
You heard it here first. Breaking health news. Yeah, bacon's great. And Bad Boy Bacon is such a badass. He doesn't care about anyone other than himself, but that's what makes him so cool. Yeah, he's a piece of bacon, wearing shades, smoking cigs, whatever.
And it's a really good account. You can go follow it. For a fun time.
Everyone check out Bad Boy Bacon. I just wanted to give it a little shout out because, yeah, that's fun. And Marky Doodoo, definitely shout out. So we should also mention that you are fun and comedy related, do comedy shows around the city. I also enjoy a good comedy show. So we probably know some similar Toronto comedy folks.
Are we going to name names? Let's gossip.
Let's
oh my
not
gosh.
Get into that.
Who do you hate?
And we should mention that you have your own show that you do, the Hack Couture.
Hack Couture.
I'm checking my notes here. Hack Couture. So it's like fashion meets comedy.
Exactly. Who doesn't love both those things in equal parts at the same time all the time?
Hey, I think it's great. And I should mention to listeners, you're dressed very fashionably today.
I'm making earrings that I made myself out of porcelain doll heads. That's not a lie.
That is what I'm talking about. Now, if that isn't fashion, I don't know what is. You got great earrings going on right now. And the whole thing, really nice. So it's a legit. So tell us about the fashion.
Well, I believe, we answered the question that everyone was asking. Why is there not runway incorporated in comedy shows? So we put that together. What actually happened was I have a background in costume design and fashion. For a while I was a personal shopper, and for a while I did costume design, and the way I dress is just naturally kind of out there. And so I don't know how many people would be familiar with this trope of like the comedian who just wears like plaid shirt and jeans, or like no one really dresses up for stage. And just because I did occasionally, suddenly became known for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I connected with another comic. Her name's Lucy Gervais. Very, very funny. Also has a flair for style. And we bonded over that. And we were just like, we need to make a show that incorporates fashion. And the feedback we've gotten has been really positive and really good. It's a fun show to put together, and it's really unique. It's high concept. The not super high concept per se. The comedians dress up, and they can dress up as flamboyantly as they want, and we have a runway, and then they do their set, and then we have a panel of fashionable judges that judges their outfits, and at the very end we crown a Miss Hack Couture with a sash that I made myself out of a sash that used to say bachelorette, and we give them a crown, a dollar store tiara.
Nice.
And it's a lot of fun.
That sounds really cool. I haven't seen the show, but I would definitely be interested. I'd want to see what the comedians normally wear, like black t-shirt and jeans, or just like plain button-up shirt. I
feel like there's this idea with comics, and I could be totally wrong, I could be off base, but I mean, when you're on stage and you're a comedian, you want to be an everyman, you want to be able to connect with the audience, and a lot of times if you dress up, then that can create some sort of a barrier, so a lot of comedians dress down for the stage. I also purposely started dressing up, not to like make things political, but I have noticed that when I dress up, and particularly when I wear things like dark makeup, like dark lipstick, like high heels, colorful dresses, men leave me alone.
Okay, all right.
And so a lot of the reason that I dress super extra is it's a way of protecting myself
so
when I'm in these spaces that are often like a bar basement late at night, and it's completely men.
Unfortunately, that is something that you have to deal with, right? Like, as a woman, we've talked about it on the podcast before. It's not great out there. It's not great. And I am sorry.
It's all your fault. I accept your apology.
Well,
on behalf of all women. No, I don't do that. I don't speak for all women. Don't write me angry letters.
So that's great. Now we get to your story, and it is related to the topic. It is called My First Kiss, or How to Deal with Blackmail.
I forgot I had submitted this. Guys, listen, I'm a huge flake. Steven approached me about doing this podcast a million years ago, and I was very bad at getting back to him. I have, I'm looking at my phone now, I have 1,700 unread emails in my inbox.
Oh,
my life was a huge disaster. So, Steven, I apologize. I completely forgotten that was my story. Okay, should I just jump in?
You may.
Okay. So, as I mentioned, I grew up way far up north. For those of you who are familiar with Canadian geography, it was a 10-hour drive north of Edmonton. Stephen is raising his eyebrows and looking shocked at that.
Seems remote.
So,
it sounds remote.
Yeah, really small town. Real small town. This will give you a good idea of how small it was. When I was in kindergarten, I had a huge crush on a boy named Jed. J-E-D. That was his name. Farm country. And he was the most adorable little Cree kid. He had a mullet, and sometimes he'd run around without socks or shoes. That was normal. And when I was in kindergarten, I had a bad moment. I misjudged. I did not read the room correctly, and I made the horrible mistake of kissing Jed. Did not go well. Was not reciprocated. Afterwards, we kind of like backed up and looked at each other, and just there was an understanding that we would never talk about that again. And then we went our separate ways. Jed was actually a gentleman and did not bring it up. Like it was our dark secret that happened. Okay, years pass. What seems like forever happens, but really we're just fast forwarding to grade 2. Okay. Jed has made some bad decisions. Like he's made some bad social decisions. One, the decision to get glasses, which
Oh yeah.
That's a bad one. Spoiler alert, that would happen to me about like a month after this story takes place. So 2, he's taken the mullet to full on rat tail. That's happening. Yeah. 3, he is no longer the svelte kindergartner that he once was. Jed gets a little chubby. Okay, listen, I don't want to body shame anyone, but when I phrase it like this, please understand that all body types are wonderful. Glasses are wonderful, and I don't know if I can say as much for rat tails, but if that's the choice you're making for your life and it makes you happy, you know what? I support you 100%. But when you're in like remote, small northern community, and you're in grade 2, these are not going to propel you to the top of the social totem pole.
Definitely
I feel like that is correct, at least.
Yeah, if you put on that second grade 15 or whatever.
Yeah, you're not going to... Girls aren't going to be wanting to kiss you.
No.
Again, everybody is beautiful, and Jed, at grade 2, chubby glasses rat tail, was a beautiful person. But again, children aren't always as open-minded and accepting. So Jed's social stock was plummeting, is what I'm saying.
Right.
People were no longer on the Jed train.
People are jumping off the Jed
jumping off the Jed train. So he did what any other child would do in the situation, which was look directly below him on the social totem pole and then just bully. Like, he was just like, if I can push off the bottom of the swimming pool. And so directly below him was me. And I'll tell you why. Town of 600 people. My father was a teacher at my school. And also my father was the only Asian man in town. And also I had not gone to grade 1. I went straight from kindergarten to grade 2. So I was a year younger and like a good deal smaller than all of the kids in the school. And also branded the quote-unquote smart kid because I had skipped a grade, so that was also not helpful. I was really... I hadn't made good social choices either.
Targets on your back.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. So we were in the hallway, and Jed was pointing at me, and he was going, I'm going to tell your dad on you. I'm going to tell you... I don't know what this was connected to.
Just holding it over you.
I heard this a lot in school, I'm going to tell your dad on you. So I rejoindered with my devastating reply, which I don't know if you've ever been bullied or if anyone listening to this podcast has been bullied or is being bullied now. You have a trick for you. When someone is saying this to you, all you have to do is just make steely cold eye contact and go, so? Yeah, so? There's no comeback. It was devastating. Jed was plummeting. He was not doing well. By now there was a crowd of kids around us, and he could see that, he wasn't
stonewalled.
Yeah. Wasn't working out. I should point out at this point I was a bullying pro. Like I said, I had multiple targets on my back. I knew how to deal with this stuff. So he could not come back to my but he could, because he leaned in real close. And he was like, I'm going to tell everyone. And at this point, I swear, it became slow motion. And he was like, that you kissed me. Like, oh my gosh. Terror. My whole body went like a cold sweat. I was like, no. And so my brain just kicked into high gear and did the only thing, like caveman instinct, like primal. Yeah. And I hauled off and I punched him as hard as I could in the face. He went... in my memory, he went flying because I'm like Superman. But I do remember he fell on the ground. His glasses flew off, and his glasses broke.
Oh,
okay.
Geez.
I should point out. And the force of that punch was very strong because Jed had also made the poor decision of using that elastic band to keep the glasses on the head.
Yeah.
Like the ear.
Sports strap.
Yeah, the sports strap. My punch was too powerful for the sports strap. Wow. The glasses flew off, and he started doing that ugly little boy cry. You know when boys cry and it's more like a yell?
Sounds like a siren or something.
Yeah, it sounds like a siren. It's like a wail. So Jed was doing that, and then I leaned in real close, and I whispered, no one will believe you now.
Oh, wow. Psychological and physical warfare.
That was the most badass I've ever been in my life.
Wow, that is incredibly badass.
He did tell my dad on me, though.
He still did?
I broke his glasses. I got in a lot of trouble.
Straight up assaulted Jed.
No, I got in trouble for breaking the glasses. I didn't get in trouble for punching him.
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? I guess because there's a monetary
There wasn't
cost
like
to it.
you hit him. It was more like a don't break people's glasses.
Oh, yeah. Probably aren't cheap to get fixed out in the countryside.
I forget what I broke about them exactly. I remember just having that child panic where you're like, my life is over. And he was holding the broken glasses, and I was like, I forget where I connected. I just remember
because that's like the weak spot, the bridge of the glass. So if you hit it sort of like beside the eye or right near the middle part.
I also remember them skidding across the hallway, so maybe that also.
So like they whiplashed off his head with the force of the sports.
It was very dramatic.
Strap. Wow, what a punch.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Don't mess with me.
Do not mess.
Fellas.
So then everybody knew, right? So that's like going into prison the first day and punching the biggest guy.
I think at that point it had been pretty established that I was not a cool kid at all. I remember at one point my principal came into my class and said something about how I was like a really great reader, which is just like, the final nail in the coffin for I guess I don't have friends now.
Like, thank you.
Principal Hampel.
Thank you for that compliment.
Principal Hampel, I found out years later. First of all, he was kind of a weird, creepy dude. He was one of the... so if you're living up north, all of the teachers, doctors, everyone successful is white and from the city, which can be very discouraging if you're a kid from that town and native. So Principal Hampel was like this white, blonde, dough of a man. I didn't like him because he would always call me by my mother's name for some reason. And was just kind of like... I got a weird vibe from him. I found out after he moved, he had to get a tetanus shot in his butt because some kid, he tried to like take a kid's pen away from them when they were writing a test, and the kid bit him.
Oh, he bit him?
Yeah.
And he had to get a tetanus
shot.
Yeah, don't take a kid's bit. That's so funny. Tetanus shot in his butt.
Imagine being that kid, though. Like a rabid child.
A rabid child, yeah. That would be, worse probably, but... Great story.
Yeah.
Well, so you overcame the blackmail, stood up for yourself.
Yeah.
And the story had a happy ending.
I'm not sure if it has a good moral. Because I don't want to condone violence.
That's true.
But, And
body shaming. But also shout out to Rat Tails. Who's bringing them back? We bringing them back? I may or may not have had a rat tail at one point. Now, moving on.
I had a mushroom cut.
You had a mushroom cut?
I had a bowl cut. When I was 3, my brother was born, I noticed that he was getting a lot more presents than me, like just a jerk baby getting so many more presents. Also, as I said, I was an avid reader, and I noticed that all the protagonists in all of my books were boys. And so I decided if I wanted a better life full of, adventures and presents, then I should just be a boy. So from the ages of 3 to about 7, I was like, I'm a boy. I had a boy's name, boy haircut. My parents were cool with it. They were like, all right, we'll let her do this.
That's right. Roll with the punches.
Yeah. I wanted my kindergarten picture, I'm wearing like a Blue Jays sweater, despite the fact that I didn't know the Blue Jays exist. Like I didn't know that they were a baseball team or what baseball was, but I was like, it was in the boys section.
Yep.
I wanted The one I wanted was a black Jurassic Park one.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't come my size, and I still am bitter about that.
Man, that would be so sweet. Yeah. You can still have that to this day.
Well, I have
Jurassic
the photo.
You have the photo.
Listen, finding clothes when you live way up north is hard. We had to order all of our stuff from Sears catalogs and then just say a little prayer that it would fit when it arrived.
Oh, man. It's just like that classic story, the sweater. The hockey sweater. Have you ever?
Yeah, right? Bringing it back to hockey.
Shout out to Canadians. You know the sweater. You know what I'm talking about. Orders the sweater from the Sears catalog, but it's not
it was the Eaton's. The Eaton's
catalog. Right,
yeah, because I remember his mom was like, "Oh, but you are Monsieur Eaton will be so sad."
Yeah, now we just got real Canadian up on you on this podcast.
Just alienating all the American viewers.
But the sweater did not. It was not a Maple Leaf sweater.
For those of you who don't know, the Maple Leafs are the worst team.
They are doing okay this year.
They're not going to do it.
Historically, they're the worst team.
They're cursed.
They're cursed.
They're literally cursed. Do you know the story of the Maple Leafs curse?
Is it the Bill Barilko disappeared?
Yeah. And then, no, there's two. There's that one where Bill Barilko disappeared. And then they found the helicopter crashed in the northern woods, but they didn't find his body. And his sister still thinks that he's out there somewhere. It's crazy.
So he's out there putting the hex on?
No, because then when they found the helicopter that he had been in, okay, so those of you who don't know, Bill Barilko was like a hockey dude. And then he was on the Maple Leafs, and he was on that team the year they won the Stanley Cup. And then he was like, I'm going to celebrate Canadian style, go off into the woods and do some hunting. So he did that, but then he never came back. And then while he was missing, the Leafs did not win a Stanley Cup until the year they found the helicopter. Maybe it was a plane. The flying device that he'd been in was crashed. They found the body of the pilot, but not of Barilko. So his sister still thinks that he's out there. Let's let her believe what she wants. She's had a hard life. She has had a bad time. But the year that they found the plane, the Leafs won the Stanley Cup again. However, the coach, who had some sort of like, what was his name? Like Simlak? He had some sort of a... Imlak. I was so close. I'm really proud of myself.
That was very good.
And he had some sort of nickname that was like Throat Punch or something. Yeah.
Just Punch.
Punch Imlak. Punch Imlak.
Imlak. Great name.
Throat Punch would be a better... Well,
yeah, that's his kid.
Throat Punch Jr. So he was, for whatever reason, displeased with the way that the Leafs had played that year. And when one of the players went to renew his contract, he lowballed him on purpose because he was like, you may have scored the winning goal that won us the Stanley Cup, but you're still a piece of shit. And so the player refused to sign the contract, but then he was sued for breach of contract for not re-signing the contract. Wow. Listen, sports law is something that is clearly over my head. We're not going to go into it. But
the lawyers in here.
That player had to pay a certain amount of money because he was sued, and he said that until the day that he was paid that amount of money back with interest, the Leafs would never win a Stanley Cup. And you know how long ago that was? I think it was 60 years ago.
Plus years, yeah.
Ooh. That story would have ended much stronger if I was like, and it was 65 years ago instead of being
day,
like
65 years to the day. So yeah,
Leafs
are cursed. Leafs are cursed, but this year could be their year.
I really hope it isn't.
I'm wondering if someone wrote that guy a secret check because they're playing good. But yeah, they could get to the final and like just get killed or something, and the curse would still
hope so. I sincerely hope, because you know what? I live in Toronto, and I do a lot of, like, I work downtown and stuff.
See a lot of Leafs fans.
Sports fans are terrible. I know I'm alienating a lot of people. I know there are people listening who are like, hey, I'm a sports fan and I'm great. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're a sports fan and you're great, but if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and you're a big drunk white guy at a bar who's yelling at me, you're not great.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fair to say.
Totally fair. Yeah, sports fans, they can get out of control. But all in good fun, right, sports fans? Yeah.
Bunch of sports nerds.
Go sports. All right, well, that was a lot of great conversations, and now we can get into the tweets. Isabel has selected 3 tweets at Isabel's Autumn on Twitter. Pigeon Fancier is your preferred handle in nomenclature. Any particular reason for that?
Oh, so at one point I was starting a new job when we were in a training session. I was very bored and I started drawing pictures of pigeons because I don't know if you know this, but pigeons are just really fun to draw.
Okay.
And then I started drawing, like making up poems about the pigeons. Sometimes, you know, like my brain just gets into a thing and it's like, we're going to do this. We're going to do it for hours. And I think I put one on Twitter, and at that point I was like under 100 followers and like very rarely using my Twitter, but I think one person responded being like, this is cool, and I was like, pigeons are my thing now.
All right, I'm in.
I really do love pigeons, though. They're beautiful birds.
Pigeons are pretty cool.
Don't touch them, you'll get scurvy. But they're beautiful and iridescent, and the way they move, it's like I've watched a pigeon. Yeah, they make a beautiful sound. Beautiful. It's musical. It's nice. Sometimes, like stone cold sober, I've just watched a pigeon walk around for 20 minutes and laugh my head off because the way they bob their head, they're like little clerks. They're like if a banker was a bird, but also beautiful. You shouldn't have started me on this because I get really emotional because people don't like pigeons and they should like pigeons.
So that's just legit, straight up, you fancy pigeons.
Yeah.
You are a pigeon fancier.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the tweets. Would you like to read one?
Sure. Should I give like a background into them?
Yeah, before or after.
Okay, let's do after.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary Numan is 13 days older than Gary Oldman. I don't even know what to believe anymore.
Cars. It's the Cars guy, right?
What?
Gary Numan.
Cars guy? Does he like cars?
Wasn't he? Isn't that the band?
Does he drive them? Does he own them?
Gary Newman's song was Cars. Here in my car, I
oh
feel
my
safe
gosh.
as no vault.
That's the song that if it comes on the radio, I turn it immediately. I'm sorry if you're a fan of the song Cars or if you're a fan of Gary Numan.
Gary Numan.
I'm more of a Gary Oldman fan. Gary Oldman's my dude.
Gary Oldman's great.
Now whenever I say that about any male celebrity, I'm just like, he's great unless we find out that he's not.
Asterisk on everybody, now.
Except for Steve Buscemi, who's an angel. I'll defend him till I die. The day that we find out that Steve Buscemi, A, has died, or B, has done something bad, I will kill myself.
No.
I really don't.
Steve Buscemi's great, though, yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think anything bad's ever going to come forward about Tom Hanks, but imagine if it did.
Oh, that would be the
I'm
ultimate
secretly gunning
bombshell.
for that. Oh, my gosh.
Ugh, it would break the internet. It's one of those break the internet things.
Yeah, it'd be terrible.
But impossible.
I kind of
Impossible.
I'm sorry, Tom Hanks. I'm sure you're a lovely person, but a part of me is just like, I hope he's not.
No.
Just because there's that like secret troll part of me. Anyway, the Gary Numan, Gary Oldman tweet was the first tweet I ever tweeted, and it was the reason that I joined Twitter because I made that joke to someone, and then they were like, get a Twitter account, and I was like, I don't know, and then it got wildly popular. No, it didn't. But the friend who suggested I join Twitter had it at that time. I think she's less on Twitter now, but she had a very successful Twitter through. She's an indie game developer, Mm-hmm. And so she retweeted it, and then a bunch of her followers did. So for a while, I just had a blank page with one tweet that had like 200 likes and 300, you know.
Just like one good viral tweet.
And my bio was like, here's my tweet. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if that was the only thing I ever tweeted? And then I didn't tweet for 3 years.
You really didn't?
Yeah, I really didn't. It was the only thing there.
Yeah, so that one's from 2013.
Yeah.
It's a classic. And now we can say, as of the time of this recording, it has over 2,000 likes.
My baby's all grown up.
Over 1,300 retweets for that classic tweet. Very good. So now I will read the next tweet for you, and it is like this. Getting pretty tired of Vin Diesel hopping in the passenger seat yelling, "Punch it," when I'm just trying to eat my lunch alone in my car. I love that, trying to eat lunch alone in my car.
That's the best part of it.
It's so relatable.
I get people...
so many people.
I get people saying, like, quoting "punch it" at me a lot, which is great. It's
Yeah.
a fabulous image of Vin
That's a
Diesel.
good one.
But, like, to me, my favorite part is the eating lunch alone in my car.
That's what really sells it
It's
for
the
me.
kicker.
I mean, Vin Diesel, for sure, does that. Hops into people's cars and yells, "Punch it." I can't even go that low. I can't even go low enough to do a good Vin Diesel.
Punch it.
Punch it. Vin Diesel noises.
Can you hear my hiccuping?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay,
I think it's going to add a oral excitement to the podcast.
That's it. No, that doesn't sound good.
Oral, like A-U-R. You know what I'm talking about, listeners. Different words sound the same.
But because I'm in this fancy studio, I have a bottle of water that has been offered to me by my lovely host. So
Thank
hopefully
you.
we'll get rid of
Producer Cody for that. So, the third tweet. Do you want to hit us with that?
Sure. I pry open the crab shell, but instead of sweet crab meat, I find a tiny, bustling city filled with people who have my face. It tastes terrible.
You ate it anyway.
Ate it anyway.
Great punch.
Yum, yum, yum.
So, it looks like you tweeted that in August of this year.
I like this one. I feel like it's the most me thing I've
Really
written.
captures your voice.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I wrote it and I was like, I love this, but I don't know if anyone else will even understand what's going on with it because it's just so
It's
what I
you.
like.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I find that recently I've been in a weird dry spell of Twitter and like kind of jokes in general. And so sometimes I'll look back at this and be like, oh, I peaked.
Remember those days?
Good old
when
days.
Inspiration just struck.
Yeah.
And he was so happy about it. Well, looks like a lot of people agree that that's very funny. I like it too. And the little, the people have your face. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Can really help visualize it.
It just really shows how narcissistic I am. Guys, you can't see on the podcast, but I'm like incredibly beautiful.
She's not lying, folks. That's why I had to send my wife away today. Just kidding. Shout out to Kat. Thank you for taking care of Griff. All right, now we get into the next tweets. They are sifted through literally hundreds of tweets on Twitter, Isabel's picks from others. So there are 3 tweets, but we can only read 2 because I can't do a good enough Werner Herzog impression, unfortunately. Maybe I'll just read it, but we'll see how it goes. So the first tweet comes to us from friend of the show, Zach, at name starts with a Z. And the tweet is...
I forgot about this one too.
Did you want to...
This podcast is so fun for me. I'm just remembering all these fun
rediscovering all your old faves on the podcast live.
Guys, I'm reading it now and I'm laughing. I totally forgot about it. It's such a good tweet.
Okay, so
Zach.
It is. Young hotshot detective says, I'll solve this case using arrogance. Detective haunted by his past says, arrogance is no match for my dead son memories.
So good.
Shout out to Zach. Always great stuff and interesting thoughts about the song Torn. So definitely go check out his episode. So
I'm
yeah,
a Pumsbury fan myself.
You're a Pumsbury fan,
Yeah.
not Neighbor Ron.
I enjoy Neighbor Ron, but I just like Pumsbury.
Pumsbury,
Like,
I just love
a man
the name.
after my own heart, you know.
Pumsbury. Pumsbury, you fool. I love being mean to Pumsbury.
He deserves it. He just is too big for his britches.
I think
Man.
he's got ideas. He's got plans. They don't involve Zach. All right. So, would you like to read the second tweet from at Cervix Smash?
I forgot I give this one too.
Smash.
Okay, so here's the tweet. Imagine being an actress and having to pretend you're in love with Adam Sandler.
I think good Adam Sandler.
This is a very good point. This is okay. This person is my best friend in the whole world.
Cervix Smash?
Yeah.
It's a great. I mean, it's a great handle.
And very, very funny dude. He's the best. I love him. And this is one of those tweets that I encountered before we spoke, and I was like, I love this. And sometimes one of the nice things about Twitter, and a lot of times I have friendships with people who I read their tweets beforehand, and I was like, I love their voice, and you kind of know, oh, we're going to be friends,
right? And
then we are,
yeah.
And this is one of those cases where I was just like, I've met this person's my best friend. He had some other ones that were good, but sometimes if his tweets do really well, he will delete them.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. We all know people like that.
do we?
Well, I mean,
I know one.
yeah,
certainly.
one specific person who sometimes does it. That's a great one though. So shout out to Cervix Smash. Also funny every time I say it. Cervix
It's so
Smash. Good. So the third tweet that you selected that I can't really do justice, but I think we should.
I can find a third one immediately. I have another one in mind. Okay, guys, when I gave the tweet in question is my favorite tweet of all time. It's by your pal Mild Sauce, and I love it because it has to do with my 2 favorite things in the entire world, Werner Herzog and butts. That's not a joke. I love Werner Herzog so much. One time I met him at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I cried.
Whoa!
And I love butts. That one go like
you're
everyone
only
loves
human.
butts. I'm only human. When I gave it to Steven, I was like, this is funny. You have to read it in a Werner Herzog voice. If you can't read it in a Werner Herzog voice, I will send you another one. Like, don't fuck it up.
Doesn't want me to try and fail. And literally, I read that tweet in Werner Herzog style voice maybe like 30 or 40 times in preparation for the podcast, and I could never nail it.
I really appreciate that you tried.
Couldn't feel positive. Like, I honestly have Werner Herzog queued up right.
The system into another bay.
I'm just playing Werner Herzog. This is what he sounds like.
Pieces across
I know, yeah, you can't hear it, but the listeners can hear it.
Oh, okay. That's going to be a special surprise for me later. This podcast is full of so many special surprises.
Yeah, so
I'm having the most fun.
So I couldn't nail it. So the backup tweet that you have selected is...
So it's by Jill LaJill at Jillian Carger.
Yeah.
At one point, I might be pronouncing her name wrong. I remember at one point she was like, the way that everyone thinks to pronounce my name is wrong.
Oh, no.
And that's the only part of that conversger I remember. I forget the correct, but it's spelled JILLIANKARGER. So I know it's not Carger like charger. That's not.
So yeah.
Because that's how I thought it was, and it turned out I was wrong.
Jillian
I'm really
Carter.
sorry, Jill. Jill is one of my favorite people on Twitter. She's really amazing and funny and hilarious.
Shout out.
And I love this tweet so much. So the tweet is, Guy, so I was a jerk to you this whole movie, but now I realize I love you. Girl, and I love you for who you are, the jerk you are inside. Perfect.
Jill, you did it again. You did it again, Jill. Yeah, Jill's great. I think she also has sent a question. So we'll look forward to that.
I am looking forward to it.
And speaking... do you have anything to add?
No.
Great.
I could say nice things about Jill all day. This could be like the Jill fan podcast.
Jill fan. So everyone go ahead and follow her, Jillian Carger, on Twitter. And now we get into the questions from Twitter. So thank you to everyone who has sent in a question at FOTS Pod on Twitter. I really appreciate all of the questions that everyone sends, and it helps the show go round. So thank you very much. First question comes in from Llama in a Tux at Llama in a Tux. And those hiccups are so cute.
Really sorry.
The question is, hello, Yesh. My question is, what is the worst date story you tell at your stand-up shows?
Okay, first of all, way to try to get content for free, Llama.
That's a sneaky
most people have to
workaround.
pay ticket prices to hear. No, I'm joking. That's such a mean thing to say. So I have a bunch that I kind of weave into one worst date story sometimes. If anyone is in the Toronto area, a show that I started doing at the very beginning when I was doing comedy that has been very good to me and very supportive of me is a show called Tinder Tales, which is comedians and just people who aren't comedians who just want to do storytelling come up and talk about their horror stories of Tinder and dating. And so when I do those, I'll often combine a bunch of different experiences into
like a nightmare date from hell.
Yeah, exactly, which makes for a fun story. I hate to tell you this, but a lot of comedians, that didn't really happen to them. It's,
what? They're exaggerating the truth for a comedic effect. Oh, well, as long as it's funny.
Yeah. I'll tell one thing that happened to me. Okay. Once I was on a date with a guy, and he was trying... Also, the way I date... I mean, I'm not dating anymore. I'm in a relationship, and I never really dated before then either. What I would do, I kind of treated them like interviews, and for material, I don't know. I didn't date right. I'm probably just really mean to men. But at one point, I did this thing where I was like, I want to see what the most personal thing is that they'll share with me, like what I can get them to admit.
Yeah.
I stopped doing that when a guy told me that he had probably... Oh, your face is already looking worried.
No, I'm very interested.
That he had probably lost his virginity to his dog.
No.
He didn't give any more details. I did not ask for any more details. That was what happened. And so the way I make that a joke.
Good way. Yeah, well, good reason to stop asking that question for sure.
Yeah, so as he said that, as the words left his body, you could see in his eyes that he knew there was no second date down the line. Because of course not. Because listen... Who amongst us has not had an ex who was still hung up on their ex.
Hey, there's the punch.
Okay. This guy was a white guy. Do you know how much white guys love their dogs so much? They kiss them on the mouth. This guy is definitely getting drunk at 2 a.m. and calling his mom and being like, can I talk to Bailey? And the dog's just like, Justin, listen, things are different now. I'm neutered. You got to move on. So yeah, that's one of the bits that I do on stage about bad dates.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And shame on Lama Nitux for not coming to a show to see it.
In all fairness, I don't think he lives in the same city as me.
That's okay. There's ways. There's ways.
One point he taunted me and he was like, I'm on a tour because he lives like a fancy jet set lifestyle, whatever, it's no big deal. And he was like, I just went through Toronto and I like waved at the CN Tower for you. He didn't visit.
He could have, yeah. He sounds like he could have popped out to Comedy Bar for a quick mome. Well, thank you, Annie, for submitting that question, Llama. And the next questions come in from Rads at Feeling Euphoric, friend of the show. And she has questions 3. The first, how are you the most beautiful person in the whole world?
I'm so glad that we got to talk about how attractive I am multiple times on this podcast.
It just keeps coming up. It just keeps coming up. I think the same question came up on her podcast, the same statement.
I asked it of her. She's the most adorable person.
It's a great callback. So yes, you're both very adorable. So how do you do it?
I don't eat any sugar. I try to get to bed before midnight every night. I use Vaseline as night cream and just straight up genetics.
Wow, that's all working for you.
Oh, you got a serious answer. What?
I love it. And Vaseline as night cream. Listeners, take that to the bank.
At one point, Tyra gave up Vaseline at her show. Because she was like, it works so well, you can put it everywhere. So shout out to Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks knowledge on the podcast. All right, 2. Do you have any stand-up comedians who inspire you? And if so, whom and why?
My 2 favorite comedians at the moment are probably Maria Bamford, who I love for multiple reasons. Maria Bamford is great because she's a woman. She's I don't want to say older woman, because she's in her like 30, but she's past that. Okay, when you're a woman, you disappear after you hit 30, and Maria Bamford is not 30, and she's visible,
30
and she's been successful for a while. She's a very accomplished voice actress, but she became like visible to the public eye after she hit that like doomsday 30 mark, and for that I'm like, yes, I want to see more older women on TV. Like I know I'm not voicing what the TV execs think. They're not like, oh, the masses are crying for more middle-aged women. It's what they want, but it's what I want. I want to see it. So that's great. 2, she's very open about her struggle with mental illness and how it's really affected her life, and it's been a huge struggle for her, and the fact that she has, I don't want to say overcame mental illness, because mental illness is one of those things that it's going to be with you ongoing. Your whole life, and it's an ongoing struggle, but she, the fact that she's vocal about it and she's, survived with it is great. It's fantastic. Also, she's just also very hilarious.
Yeah,
and
very funny.
Very, very funny. Her most recent special, her first special, actually, I didn't like it as much as I liked her most recent one, which is fantastic. She's doing her own thing with comedy, and she's really making it her own, and has this really, really unique voice. And you can tell that I really love people who like to play with the medium that they're given. Yeah. And she really does that to very good effect. And then the second one is Jen Kirkman, a little bit more traditional stand-up style, but I'm a big fan of her. I think she's hilarious. She also speaks up a lot for women's rights. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
And she's just fab. I love when I see women comedians who are like confident in owning themselves and just
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, especially, because of all the obstacles. Obviously, after overcome is a very male-dominated industry, and it always has been. So it's great to see, like, not only great new voices that come up, women and people of color, but also them sticking up for each other and growing the community. So everyone is sort of like, check out this person, and sharing other voices. She was one of the first ones to call out Louis C.K. as well, being like, hey, this guy's a dirtbag. Yeah, that's a big part of it too, like standing up for yourself. Like that's a huge part of it. So
not supporting abusers.
Don't support abusers. All right, and the third question from Rads: Deathmatch, me versus at Captain Calvis Kellen. Who wins?
I'm pretty sure that Kellen would lose for a number of reasons. One, I think he's like a good person who wouldn't want to fight a woman and would probably throw the match.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, she's smaller than him physically and younger than him. And, I feel like Kellen wouldn't beat up a woman, is what I'm saying.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm 100% in agreement.
I said multiple reasons. It's really the only reason.
But it is also a death match.
Okay. I don't think that Madeline could kill anyone. I think she has a good, sweet, pure heart, and I love her very much.
So they both just
I think
starve to death.
they would kind of like slap each other and be like, oh, and then they'd just be left in the Thunderdome and be like, whoever, can outlast the other starvation style.
Starvation, yeah. All right. So thank you very much, Rads, for those great questions. And I don't want to see any death matches between you and Cal. So... Great, bud. Great. Thanks for asking the questions.
Don't kill yourselves.
And the next question comes in from Michael at home_halfway. And Michael asks, which Marx brother had the rawest sexuality?
Okay, this one I'm going to have to say Groucho.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had the most number of spouses.
Oh, this is a well-researched answer.
Well, listen. At one point, I saw the movie... What's the movie? The one where they're like... Something about politics. Where they're like, there's a king. One of them's a king. One of them's a ruler. There's like some sort of a governing body. Uh-huh. Obviously, this movie made a great impression on me.
Movie.
But afterwards, I remember Googling the Marx Brothers. The reason I saw this movie was because I was like, I need to be more cultured and I need to expose myself to the Marx Brothers. And then I saw this one movie and I was like, done. That was bad for radio, but I did like the hand dusting off motion. But and so then I did some research and I was like, okay, I'll watch this movie and then I'll just check Wikipedia and then I'll be cultured. So Groucho was an interesting guy. Not only did he have 3 wives, but they were all substantially younger than him. Like they just got younger and younger. His first wife was kind of close in age to him, born 1920. His next wife was born in 1945.
Whoa, big jump.
No, that's the marriage date. Okay, I'm reading this wrong. At first I was like, oh my gosh, what a juicy piece of gossip. And I just realized I was misreading Wikipedia.
You heard it here first.
But I do remember reading it and being like, whoa, those are some young-ass wives. Yeah, and I for whatever reason in my mind, I was like, and he had 1 billion children. I think he had 3 kids. Which
that's not nothing.
I have 4 younger siblings, so for me to say that would be very hypocritical.
Right.
And so maybe one of the other Marx brothers has a bunch of kids. My phone's on 2%, and
but
so my googling is not proving very successful.
But Groucho is what you're gonna go with.
Yeah. Also, he had that mustache. Was he the one with the mustache? Yeah, he was. He was the one with the mustache.
And it was that mustache that got the ladies going.
I feel like I should retract that statement because I don't want to encourage mustaches in men.
Okay. Well, yeah, November's over, so we can say that.
Shave those things off, guys.
All right, and the next question comes in from Mike Bigby at Mike Bigby on Twitter. And he asks, does free will exist? And what's next for your comedy career?
All right, so in answer to your question, it does, but not in ways that we think it does.
Okay.
I think so. In things like picking out your clothes or being like, "What's my what am I going to tweet about?" Or like
earrings am I going to wear today?
Yeah, like that's all been predetermined. Our personality is so based on what we experience in life and what our genetics are. And there are so many things that we learn are actually like, oh, you don't decide this. Like there's a study I read recently that said divorce is genetic, where they looked at people who'd been adopted, and then they looked at their birth parents, and they found that if the birth parents got married and stayed together, the kids they gave up for adoption were more likely to get married and stay together, as opposed to if the birth parents got divorced or broke up or whatever.
Okay.
So there are all these things that we think like, oh, it's up to me, but really it's not. But I think that free will does exist in a much smaller but more important way when we're faced with an ethical or a moral dilemma.
Right.
And we're acting either against our own best interest or against our comfort.
Right.
And it's in those moments that we choose who we are. And it's like, am I going to be a good
the
person
light
or a
or
bad
the
person?
dark side.
There is a really nice saying, and all of my friends are like, oh, here she is with the saying again, because I talk about this a lot. But so there's a Inuit saying, there are 2 dogs inside of me. One is good and one is bad, and they're constantly fighting. And the one that wins is the one I feed the most.
Oh, got it.
So that's what I think of free will.
So when you make a bad quote unquote bad decision, your bad dog gets a bit bigger, and that's more a part of you.
And determines who you are. I don't believe in good people or bad people, and I think that when I meet people, maybe this is also just like my women's senses. When I meet a guy who's like, I'm a good guy, I'm just like, you sound like you feed the bad dog.
All right. And he also asked, what's next for your comedy career? Oh, you got the book coming out.
That's not a comedy book, though.
No, I mean,
I sure hope that it's not going to... People aren't going to think it's funny. I don't know. I think Kafka's kind of funny in some ways, but that's not my... I didn't author that. I am trying to get out of Toronto more and travel around, and that's difficult for me because I'm also a single mom. I don't know, days off or
it's a lot,
babysitting. My parents are very supportive and very wonderful, and I'm incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my family. I also have my siblings are all in Toronto, and they help out with babysitting sometimes.
Oh,
which
that's
is really
great.
Nice. So, yeah,
getting out of town,
get out of town,
getting more exposure with, you were saying, smaller communities or other communities with different diverse voices.
Yeah, and it's also helpful knowing that your jokes they resonate with people outside of your community, because it's so easy to be insular with your comedy and just be like, so who here goes to Kipling subway station, and then that stuff doesn't translate.
Yeah,
beyond.
but it works at like a few very specific spots.
Oh, it works great at a few very specific spots. It kills at the Kipling comedy.
Once you get outside Subway Land, though, right, it stops making the laughs. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. So thank you very much, Mike, for sending the question. And the next question comes from Desecrated Jewel at Desecrated Jewel, another Canadian pal, what is the origin story of your pigeon appreciation? So where did it all begin?
Did we talk about this?
We already talked about it, yeah, but what's the first pigeon that you appreciated?
The first pigeon that I appreciated?
Do you remember a specific day?
Yes, I do. Okay, so if you live in okay, here we go with the regional humor. If you live in Toronto, there's a subway station called Bathurst Subway Station. It's the best subway station in the world because it is overrun with pigeons. So overrun with pigeons. If you've seen the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World, there are scenes where you see a large building called Honest Ed's, and it's all lit up, like the marquee is all it's beautiful, and it was one of my favorite places. And now it's closed down because of gentrification.
Toronto Landmark, now closed.
Yeah, now it's gone. And when they first started turning off the lights, every time I would walk past, I would cry. I'm very emotional. I get very attached to things. But right around the corner from there is Bathurst Subway Station, and underneath, once you go down to the platform, there's like a photo booth, there's like a pants altered place, there's like a bakery, and on top of every surface are like spike things to keep the birds away. But there's a precious family of pigeons that nestled in among the spikes and just built their nest there as a giant fuck you to the people who put those spikes there. And I remember I was 18 and I was looking at those pigeons, and I was like, they know how to live. Like the spirit of those pigeons is indomitable.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well,
that's a true story.
That's a beautiful story, might I add.
If you go to Toronto and you want to see a really good tourist attraction, it's like skip the Battersea Museum, go to Bathurst Subway Station, find the OG pigeons.
Find those pigeons and give them a small offering of bread. Now, the next questions come to us from the Burger King at A Burger a Day, and he has two questions. Number one, is there a story behind your tattoos? And if so, would you please tell us?
Why does he talk like that?
That's just how he talks. He doesn't actually talk like that. I like to talk, to ask the questions in weird
Steven's
voices.
That's Steven's tattoo voice.
Yeah, that's a guy asking about tattoos.
The hardcore tattoo voice.
So you are inked.
I am. I have tattoos. And it's very flattering that he says that he likes them, because I know that he does not like tattoos generally. He's not a big fan of tattoos as a whole. So the tattoos that he's talking about, the ones that he's seen, they're two little bunnies, and they're surrounded by marigold flowers, and they're on my... Is this a sternum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
They're on my sternum, and I got them because my daughter was born in the year of the rabbit, and my son is born in October, and the flower for that month is marigolds.
Oh,
and
nice.
Also, rabbits have this weird way of popping up in my life. I had a pet rabbit when I was little. He died tragically. He was torn apart by a raccoon when he was 12 years old.
Oh,
That was
no.
all he had to do was like one more week, and he would have passed away in his sleep. But instead, he was torn apart by a raccoon. Guys, life is cruel.
Very sorry
But
to
also,
hear that.
he was a bad rabbit because he kept trying to sexually assault our next door neighbor's dogs.
It was a big rabbit.
No, he was a regular sized rabbit.
Oh,
they were just
small
small dogs. Yeah. He would run across the lawn, and our neighbor would start screaming. And at the time, I didn't know that he was trying to have sex with them. I thought he was attacking them,
Right,
and I would laugh because I was like, those wimpy ass dogs.
Yeah.
But then my mom
Come on,
was like,
dog.
no, that's not what was happening. So maybe Buster deserved. No one deserves to be torn apart by a raccoon.
No.
But anyway, I like rabbits.
R.I.P. Buster.
A large part of my life has been rabbit imbued.
Okay,
and so I got these tattoos. And the tattoo artist, her name is Frances Lee. She's a really, really talented artist in Toronto. And she's really, really good at rabbit tattoos in particular.
Right. Yeah. So you went to the professional.
I went to the rabbit.
Yeah, you went to
person.
the rabbit person
Yeah.
for tattoos.
She also does like very, very good with color. And I don't know if you've picked up on this, but I'm not white. Listeners of the podcast. So my concern with color would be if you're not working with like porcelain skin,
right. Doesn't
incorporating
show
color
up
can
as
be
well, or-
trickier. So she's a very good colorist, and I just liked her style, which is very cartoony because I'm a very cartoony person myself.
Well, there you go, burger guy. Thank you for that. And your second question, what was it like living in Alaska? And were you far enough north to have days without sun and days without night?
Okay, so I don't know why Alaska. At one point, did I tell people I was from Alaska?
Maybe.
It might. Here's the
Just say,
thing.
what is it?
Sometimes I'll just like casually
North,
lie in conversation because I think it's funny, and then I'll forget that I lied, and then people will just think that of me. So I'm really sorry if I said I was from Alaska. I'm from northern Alberta, still very, very, very north. And yes, there were days with the sun didn't set. It was very frustrating. Oh my gosh. Okay. It was very frustrating as a child to go to bed at what was probably like 10 p.m., but with the
Still
full
late.
light outside. And
Oh, yeah.
also, you could hear kids
Other
playing.
kids playing outside.
Because their parents didn't care and they were neglected or whatever.
Yep.
And so that was frustrating. And my mom would have to tape cardboard over the windows so that the sunlight wouldn't come in. I think as a result, I'm a very heavy sleeper and I can sleep through anything and I can sleep in the daytime. And
Oh.
I'm used to sleeping in the
It's a
daytime.
bonus.
The one thing I miss from the north are the northern lights. Before I die, I want to drive up and see them again because I miss them a lot. Sometimes I'll
'Cause
look
you
at
can just see
pictures of
them all
them
the
and I'll
time,
cry.
right?
Someone
You
in this
just, like-
podcast is me talking about how I cry.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Northern Lights.
Good.
Aurora Boreal. Great, beautiful thing. Miss them too. All right, and the next question comes in from Zach at name starts with a Z. And he asks, what is your favorite spice, seasoning, or condiment?
Okay, I actually have an answer to this.
All right.
Ready. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you know the one, okay, it's like tamarind spice.
Tamarind.
There was a limited edition something house, smokehouse. Like this like seasoning company had like a limited edition Clubhouse had a limited edition tamarind spice and it was delicious and I put it on everything. And then when I saw it was limited edition, I bought 5 and it was discontinued like 3 years ago and I still have it.
You still have some?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love the taste of tamarind. Like I said, I don't eat sugar, but there used to be, and I hate pop and I hate soda or pop, soda, Coke, soft drink, whatever you call it. I don't like it. I never have.
High fructose corn syrup.
Exactly. It's too, like, it hurts my mouth. But the one that I miss was there's a Mexican drink called tamarindo. And it was like tamarind pop. And it was so good. I miss it. I love the taste of
There you
tamarind.
go, tamarind. Very specific and good answer. And Clubhouse, maybe think about bringing it back.
Yeah, guys, can we make it viral?
Clubhouse,
Bring back
if
tamarind
you're
spice.
listening.
Listen, I'm all stocked up for life. I don't need it for me.
You're
but
good?
if like you want to try it, then maybe, start
Yeah, I do want to try it now. I'm going to start at replying Clubhouse, see what we can do. All right, we got a couple questions left as we're winding down. And the next question comes from Rob Elliott at Rocky Momax. And he asks, as a female comedian in the midst of everything that is happening at the moment, has it affected your stage presence? Do you feel more empowered on stage or find yourself getting more laughs? I've always thought you were hilarious. That's what Rob says. Me too, though.
Yeah, Steven doesn't. Steven's like, just to be clear, I
I'm
don't
gonna
think
rubber
Isabel's hilarious.
stamp
I got her on the podcast
that.
because I thought she'd be a huge bummer.
But that was all part of the question. That was a parenthetical at the end.
Yeah, Rob, I think he was worried that in the second part of his question where he was like, have you found you've been getting more laughs? It would come across
Yeah.
as his like,
I get it. He couched it.
yeah, a very thoughtful dude. So no and no. But, okay, that's the short answer. The long answer could take a very long time and just be like the whole pot. I could give a TED Talk. Okay, so the first no to I do not feel more empowered on stage is because comedy is very empowering for me. And there are multiple things about comedy that have empowered me. But those things have been existing for a long time. I'm talking about spaces that are like for women, by women, for people of color, by people of color, for women of color, by women of color. And we've been doing that. We've been carving out these, I don't want to use the term safe spaces, but just like these spaces for ourselves for years because we've been forced out of these other places. And I should add, with much success. One of my very good friends, her name is Anna Simone George, she started up a show called Shade this year, which is just for people who are people of color, women, or LGBT. Oh my gosh,
community.
I fucked that up. I'm so sorry. Or who are queer. Basically, if you're not a straight white man, you can do her show. And they've sold out every month. And there's a huge following, huge community. She was profiled by Vice.
Nice.
Just simply by making spaces for marginalized groups. These things are very empowering and they're wonderful, but they've been happening for a long time and we've been doing that by ourselves. Also, the part two to that no is that the Me Too movement, if anything, has made me acutely aware of the amounts of internalized misogyny that exist within female comedians within my own communities, and that has been very disheartening for me, and also made me feel like there were places where I felt were safe or were supportive, and suddenly I'm finding out they're suddenly not.
So there's like faux supportive or like surface level supportive, but
more like they want to take advantage of the this was so serious. Okay, they want to take advantage of the community that offers support, but they also don't want to give back to it, and they want to. I mean, I don't want to get into people's heads and be like, "This is why they do it," but I think from observing that it's more like they want to get as much support as they can. So they'll be like a false ally, or they'll play up the fact that like I'm Asian, and then they turn around and actively like support abusers or support rooms that are garbage, or will be like not all men, or like and or worse things that I don't want to mention because of people's privacy or whatever. But that's been really sad because I want to be this person who supports all women and loves all women and whatnot. And it's so frustrating when a woman is like, but like, it's fine that men are like this. Let's just like let them do their thing. Or like, I don't know. I'm doing a horrible impression of someone I know. And I just want to take them by the shoulders and I want to shake them like a detective in a film noir, being like, "Listen, kid, you're better than this. You can get out of this town. You can
snap out of
there's
it.
better stuff out there for you. You gotta understand.
You don't gotta go back there, kid. You don't gotta go." And
all the cigarettes are flying out of her mouth, and I'm just shaking her by the shoulders. I just want to do that and be like, "Love yourself. Love yourself.
Yeah,
stop it." But yeah, so that's been a little bit discouraging. And as for the laughs thing. And Rob clarified this to me, that he meant maybe that now people who previously would have thought, women aren't funny, women aren't whatever, would maybe be listening. That's a really nice thought, and it's very sweet. Of bless his soul.
I guess so,
but I honestly think that if you thought that already, Me Too probably is not gonna persuade you. It would be lovely if that would happen for just one person.
Not changing attitudes overnight is what you're saying. Just a hashtag.
I mean, hopefully it's at least started the seeds of something somewhere.
Well, so.
And I am happy in that it has prompted a lot of gross people being booted out of whatever, and B, it's opened up some maybe like town hall style discussions of like how do we deal with this. But I don't think it's necessarily changing audience perspectives. But I mean, also that's so hard to gauge because as a comedian, hopefully you're always learning and growing and becoming funnier and funnier until you just like achieve maximum funny velocity and shoot off into the sun based on your jokes. Since he asked that question, I was kind of trying to pay attention at shows, being like, am I getting more laughs?
Right.
But it's so there's no what do you call it? There's no control for that experiment,
Right.
because
Yeah. We'll just say, yeah, you're getting a little bit more every time.
yeah.
That's what's happening.
So I shoot off into the sun.
But it has nothing to do with me too.
Yeah. Or if it does, I have no way of knowing.
There's no way of knowing. All right. Well,
Rob, you asked an impossible question.
thank you
It was
for
very
your...
thoughtful. I really appreciate that he
Yeah.
asked like, a thoughtful question, because I did spend some time mulling it over.
That's great. And yeah, thank you, Rob, for asking such a great provoking question, a conversation-provoking question. And everyone follow at Rocky Momax on Twitter for some fun jokes. Now, the final question comes in from the aforementioned Bad Boy Bacon at badboy_bacon. And Bacon asks, hello. Why was Sally selling seashells by the seashore when anyone could just walk right down to the beach and get seashells for free?
Because capitalism is inherently evil.
That's right. Part of our society.
Listen, the people were told falsely that they had to buy Sally's seashells because they were somehow better. Also, people have a different perception of value, and sometimes if something is free and something has a price tag on it, their brains will be like, the price tag is better.
That's right.
Listen, it's all like that Birkin bag mentality. Sometimes if it seems fancier, then you're going to want it. That's happened to you, though, hasn't it? Where you're at a store and there's like a sale rack and you look at the sale items and then you look at the full price items and you're like, but these seem better.
That could happen. Yep, that's for sure. And it could be branding. Sally could have just good branding. She has a nice little thing. You don't have to walk all the way down to the beach. She has brought them to you. That's a service.
Maybe she's just like a really charming, good salesperson.
Entrepreneurial, at least.
Also, who's her audience? Who's she selling to? Maybe Sally's like hot stuff and she's selling to all the men on the beach.
That could happen.
Maybe Sally's like an old lady who's, selling those homey shells, and people are like, oh, it's like
wisdom
like grandma used to make,
Yeah. With each shell, a little homespun wisdom.
Maybe they feel sorry for her. Once my mom bought $200 worth of candles from a roadside candle seller.
Oh, no.
Because she felt sorry for them, and she was like, oh, they're here with their candles so earnestly.
So desperate.
Selling their candles.
Definitely part of a huge pyramid
she
scheme.
came home and she had all these candles. We're still not done all those candles.
You still have the candles?
Listen, my mom's house smells amazing, but did you know that 98% of candles sold are sold to women?
What?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I mean, I'm trying to think
Guys,
back
I'm
to my
full of
last
facts.
candle purchase now. I'm trying to think back.
Yeah,
my last
all the
candle
candles in this house are
purchase.
supplied by Stephen's wife.
It's true. And we did have a nice cinnamon one burning earlier. All right. Well, I guess that just about wraps her up. So if you have anything that you wanted to promote, maybe your show, maybe a Redbubble page or something, I will include the link in the show notes.
Yeah, so if you like artwork, I have a duvet of Steve Buscemi's face.
Oh, yeah.
And also some other things like t-shirts and stickers and stuff. And
A duvet of Steve Buscemi's face?
it's my favorite thing. All I want is for everyone to have duvets with Steve Buscemi's face on them. If you want to check out my artwork, I have a Redbubble page. Just Google Redbubble Isabel Zauton. It'll be right there. I have a blurb page for my children's books. Again, I think you just Google blurb Isabel Zauton. I have 2 books currently up there, and ideally a third by Christmas if I get my act together. And if you're in Toronto on December 29th, I have a show coming up, Hack Couture, which is my fashion comedy show.
Check her out in 2018. All the dates, just DM Isabel on Twitter, and she'll tell you specifically.
Yeah.
That's for our GTA listeners. And I think that just about wraps it up.
I said GTA listeners for a second. I was like, I thought Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
and
our gamers, all our hardcore gamers out there, get at us.
Listen to some female comedy, which I know if you like Grand Theft Auto, you love women in comedy.
Shout out to women in comedy, definitely. Everyone, go check out a unique comedic voice if you can. Anybody else that you recommend for that? Maria Bamford, you said, Jen Kirkman.
I probably have a bunch, but I'm
Nothing off the top of your
blanking
head?
now because I've been put on the spot. I'm just like, I've never heard of a comedian. What are you talking about?
All right,
Who's
well,
Dave Chappelle?
so I guess that just about wraps it up, and we will now, I'll play the theme song, and we will say our goodbyes.
Bye.
Thank you for coming over to my house and recording the first live episode, and I'm sorry that I've given you the hiccups, but it's really funny to me.
I get them really often.
Oh, it's here.
Yeah, no, all the time. My boyfriend says I should go to the doctor about it.
Okay.
nice.
Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode with Isabel. Do check out her artwork and jokes on Twitter and IRL. Go to @FOTS Pod and send a question for future guests. I am @SkinnerSteven on Twitter. Visit StephenWSkinner.com for all the episodes, like every single episode. Be sure to subscribe and automatically get a new episode every week. And support the show by leaving a review. Cheers to Kyle I. Davidson for the theme and Ruby Coast for the music. And thank you very much for listening. Have a great one.